Welcome to Library Out Loud with your host, Jane Baker. Jane has 7 years working at the Spokane County Library District as a communication and development director. Library Out Loud is about any and all things that are happening at the Library District. Library Out Loud is brought to you in part by STCU and SCLD. Now, here's your host, Jane Baker.
Hello and welcome to Library Out Loud. I'm Jane Baker with the Spokane County Library District, and today we're talking about the Dishman Hills, and joining me is Jeff Lambert. You are with the Dishman Hills Conservancy and Executive Director, correct?
Yes.
Yes, thank you so much for being here today. I'm excited to talk about this. Love the Dishman Hills area. I have to say I've done my fair share of hiking up there. I wish it had been more, so maybe after this we can talk more about when I need to get back up there. But thank you for joining me today. So let's start by talking about where is Dishman Hills. I'm surprised when people don't know.
Well, the Dishman Hills is situated in between the city of Spokane Valley and the city of Spokane. So if you know where Appleway is, the auto row in between I-90 and Dishman Micah Road, it starts there and proceeds south about 6 miles.
Okay.
So if you look at the map, the northern portion is about 550 acres. That was
And that's the portion we see right there.
Yes.
Okay.
And I-90 is the little red line to the upper left. So it's very accessible. And the other thing I want you to notice is the heavy development around the Dishman Hills. So then if we proceed south a little bit, right in the middle is the Glenrose unit of the Dishman Hills Conservation Area. Once again, heavy development on both the valley side, and it's a little bit more rural on the west side, the city of Spokane side. What's really cool about this is how accessible it is to the community. No Discover Pass. The hiking and the nature viewing is spectacular in these areas. Then if we scroll down to the southern, the most southern portion, this is the Eiler Creek, or some call it the Iller Creek unit.
Creek, yes.
Yes, of the Dishman Hills Conservation Area. Most of this is owned by Spokane County Parks. There are 2 trailheads here. On the northern end is the Eiler Creek trailhead, and that requires about a 5.5 mile walk to get up to the Big Rock area. On the south end, there's the Stevens Creek trailhead, and that is about a 2-mile loop. So it's really great for families. We want to get our kids out at an early age, and they're so excited to go up to these gigantic 1.7 billion year old rocks that are sticking 200 feet out of the air or into the air, that they don't even realize they're going to go for a nap on the way home.
Yes.
They're able to power around that pretty effectively. Now, one of the things that I hope we talk about a little bit more later on is we have that inverted L-shaped property, which is the Wilson property, and that's one that we have a contract to buy on September 6th. So by that time, we need to raise $800,000. But at this point, this will be, I want to mention, this is going to be another proposed trailhead. So the most popular Conservation Futures trailhead in Spokane is the Stevens Creek trailhead, which is on the right side of the screen right now. And so by putting in a new trailhead, we're going to be able to accommodate more people to come up and enjoy the trails.
Sure.
And also disperse those users so you don't feel like you're at the mall
Oh,
with so
okay.
many people out there.
Sure.
So
Sure. Okay.
that's kind of lays out where the Dishman Hills has the advantage of being so easily accessible to tens of thousands of people. We actually call it, the nickname is the Wild Heart of Spokane. And it makes a lot of sense because it is right in the middle of the urban area.
Yes, yes. We were talking a little bit before we had started the program, and I had been fortunate enough to live in a neighborhood right off of Dishman Hills at one point. So I used to walk up there every day. And at that time, I didn't realize what a gem I was walking through. You know, I thought it was just an undeveloped area and was up there hiking around, and it is very nice. So if people haven't been up there, it's easy. You don't need to be a super experienced hiker, at least down at the northern section. Maybe you do in the others, not so sure. I've been up at Iller Creek, and I've done fine there too without any special equipment or fantastic abilities.
I think the Dishman Hills is accessible for everyone.
Great.
And the plain fact of the matter is, if you're on a trail and you're ready to turn around, you can just turn around. My opinion is the trail is totally different going back.
Oh, yes.
Compared to going in. And in fact, you didn't ask for trail tips, but when I'm on a new trail, when I come to an intersection, I stop and I pretend I'm coming from the other way. So when I hit that intersection on the way back, I'll be able to make the right choice as to which way to go.
Good plan.
Yeah. So getting lost in the Dishman Hills is a tradition.
Okay.
However, lost just means that maybe you get back to your car a half hour late, not that you're lost for days, because it is surrounded by urban development.
Yeah. There's nothing to worry about. You're going to have to walk one way and you'll run into people sooner or later, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it's easy to get to. Let's talk the northernmost, the natural area, as you call it, right off of Appleway. Great parking at a place called Camp Caro, correct?
Yes.
And then you can hike up there. And let's talk a little bit about that hike. I know there's a place called Enchanted Ravine, and it's kind of dark, and you got cliffs on either side of you. And I was reading that actually is a fault line.
Yes.
Yeah. What?
So the natural area on the north end is it is a designated ecological area by Washington State. It was one of the first 4 in the state that were so designated in 1987. The Dishman Hills is full of geologic features that are very unusual and really great for us to understand. So Enchanted Ravine is a fault that's opened up, and so that's what makes that narrow ravine-like effect. It's my favorite place to hike in the wintertime because the water that flows down creates a wall of icicles on each side.
Oh, wow.
So it's really pretty and cool. And but anyway, it is extremely quiet. It's has sound, not deafening, sound dampening effects because of hundreds of years of pine needles falling down, and so it's like you're in a totally different place when you're out there. The other geologic issues are, this used to be the coastline. right through the Dishman Hills, and so tectonic plates hundreds of millions of years ago came in from the Pacific Ocean, and of course that causes big things to happen over geologic time, including it brought to the surface the gneiss, GNEISS rocks that are 1.7 billion years old. So when you walk through the Enchanted Ravine, you're surrounded on each side by that ancient rock,
Wow.
which is pretty dang cool.
It's very cool, and it's just a few minutes of hiking away from the parking lot till you get to that.
Right.
And that's just the beginning of some of the things you see there in Dishman Hills, and how beautiful and what a gem it really is. So the wild heart of Spokane, quite appropriate.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I did some of this study on the website, so dishmanhills.org, if anybody wants to know any more about it, to make sure and check out the website. But I read that there's 300 different types of mushrooms, and there are rare plants, and the fault lines and all that kind of. It's just fascinating to read. So that's just the beginning. That's just the beginning. There's so much more to discover there. So that's very exciting. So tell me more about how are these sections going to come together? Where are you going with that next?
Oh, how the sections are going to come together.
Right. Yeah, we had the map that we showed.
So the way I got involved with the Dishman Hills, you know how us guys are. We hang out and drink beer. So I was talking to Michael Hamilton, who was the president of the Dishman Hills Conservancy for 20 years.
Wow.
And I looked at the map and I said, well, shoot, why don't we just connect all these areas?
Yeah.
And at that time, the Glen Rose, which is now, the Glen Rose unit is now over 700 acres, did not exist. So being an aggressive fellow, I said, well, shoot, I'll get to work and I will connect these areas. That was in 2002.
Okay.
So this kind of community conservation takes time.
Yes.
Takes building community support, and it takes working with willing landowners. And so I want to preface that everything we do in the Dishman Hills with respect to conservation and recreation considers the existing property owners and what their needs are and their desires. So what we find is many of the properties in the Dishman Hills have been in the same families for decades, sometimes 100 years or more, like the Flying L Ranch, which was acquired last year. So our approach is to work with the landowners. Some of them want to have working forests or ag lands, and we think that's great, because the number one issue for us is having a viable wildlife corridor protecting native species. But let's face it, in the long run, we want to permanently protect the entire Dishman Hills Ridge.
Absolutely.
And so I've been the executive director now for 4 years. A year ago, working with our conservation committee, put together a 5-year plan to both acquire 1,200 acres, build 3 new trailheads, because we want the community to be able to get out there and enjoy nature, and raise $5.7 million to fund the whole thing.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so then where did you start? And if we look at this map that you have here with the separate green sections, okay, so we have the natural area, and then there's the Glen Rose, and then there's the Iller or Eiler Creek. And then so you're going to work to try and purchase the properties in between. Is that your goal?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
We got it here.
obviously, the natural area that was founded in the 60s and 70s should be connected to the Glen Rose,
Sure.
which is the most recent one in the last 8 years or so, and then Eiler Creek, which happened in the 90s and early 2000s. So in the first year of our conservation plan, the county acquired the Flying L Ranch, which is 180 acres and is an important part of the connection.
And that's right in there.
And we bought 120 acres that adjoin Big Rock and provides a buffer for those beautiful rocks of Sharon. People have hiked through the Big Rock Addition, which is what we call it down in this area, just assuming it was part of the protected area. The plans were to build 6 to 10 beautiful houses there, so we swooped in and paid about $600,000 to buy that before we lost it.
Awesome.
So in each one of these areas, we have relationships with the property owners. We can't really talk about those possible transactions until they happen.
Sure.
One that we can talk about is right here.
Okay.
This is on Willow Springs. It's 137 acres. Total, very, very spectacular, both for wildlife habitat, views, recreationally. It's connected to the rocks of Sharon, and that's the one that we want to acquire later on this year. So people always like to know what the scorecard is. So last year, between Spokane County's Conservation Futures Program and our efforts, we spent about $1.6, $1.7 million. So when we look at 5.7 as the total project cost, it's very doable.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. That's great. Great work. All right. Jeff, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk more about this. That's what we're going to do. This is great. For Library Out Loud, Jane Baker will be right back.
Welcome to Tom Sawyer Country Coffee.
Tom Sawyer Country Coffee only roasts the finest organic coffee for our signature blends. Enjoy a cup at our coffee shop and local businesses and organizations across the region.
I'm Tom Sawyer, and we choose the Pacific Northwest.
What? You haven't been to the library lately? Stop in today and see that the library is more than books. Spokane County Library District facilities feature on-site technology, including Wi-Fi, computers, and printers, as well as free use of meeting rooms. The Library District offers events and programs for all ages, from story times to career development and employer classes to Social Security workshops. Our staff is well trained and happy to help. Find out more about your library at scld.org.
I'm Jade Becker, and I'm a senior at Chewelah High School. I'm at STCU's Money Live event. In this scenario that we played today, I was a realtor. My spouse was a city worker. We had an 11-month-old child, and there was a lot of spending for that child, like diapers and formula, and had to buy toys and clothing. I'm very glad that I had this experience. It was super helpful. You need this to get far and ahead in life. I'm Jade Becker, and STCU is here for good.
And welcome back to Library Out Loud. I'm Jane Baker with Jeff Lambert, who is the Executive Director of the Dishman Hills Conservancy. Thank you for being here today.
My
I
pleasure.
love talking about the Dishman Hills. It's a unbelievable. If you haven't been there, take a day and check it out. It'll cost you nothing, and you'll have the time of your life and see how beautiful it is. And if you want to know more after this program, the Spokane County Library District has a program coming up called Dishman Hills, the Wild Heart of Spokane. It is on Wednesday, May 8th at the Spokane Valley Library from 7 to 8 p.m. And Jeff, you're leading that, correct?
Correct.
Yes, so you can come bend his ear. And also Run for the Hills happening on Saturday, June 1st. Oh, this doesn't show up too well, but you could find out more at dishmanhills.org. And it's a trail run happening that day, and there's all kinds of events that day. Very, very much a family-oriented event happening on Saturday, June 1st from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and that's checking in at Camp Carroll right off of Appleway Boulevard. So those are a couple things coming up. So Dishman Hills, you're doing incredible work, and I'd like to say thank you for doing that work. I think this is so important to preserve this area. It is surrounded by cities and urban, and it's as we were talking earlier, I used to live nearby. It was great. Go up and walk and enjoy. What a beautiful area we have. Aside from me encouraging people to go and hike or just enjoy it, what would you like people to know about the Dishman Hills? How can they help?
Well, I'm going to start off with how to learn more about the Dishman Hills.
There you go.
This presentation at the Spokane Library is an opportunity to come and learn about what we're doing. But for me, it's very important for you to come and join us for a guided walk. You won't get lost.
Okay.
You will get back to the car at the appointed time, and you will learn so much about that wonderful natural area. And so it's a great way to be inspired about what we're doing. So whether you come to the presentation or our Trails Day, where we're going to have nature walks going every hour all day long. But go to our website and sign up for a free nature walk. We don't require anything to be done, membership or anything. It's important for us to give the community an opportunity to learn about what we're doing. So of course, it's also great to do some stewardship work. So we have trail building, we have tree planting, we have vegetation management, which is, of course, our code for pulling weeds. And but nothing that we do in the field with volunteers is about the hard labor. It's all about learning. Why are we planting these trees? How do you plant them properly? Why are we planting this type of species or this type of tree instead of another type? And the same thing with the weeds and the trails. We do it right. We inform and engage the community by doing these things. So whether it's your church or your troop or your community group, give us a call and we can work with you on doing something.
Oh, fabulous. Fabulous. So dishmanhills.org, you can go on, you can sign up for a nature walk. It takes about an hour?
Oh, the nature walk?
Yeah.
They vary from 1 hour to 2.5 hours.
Okay. And no cost?
No cost.
No cost to park?
No cost to park.
Fabulous. That's fabulous. We had some photos. See, Vinny, can you pull those photos up and see what those are? See if we can do it.
I will say we do love folks to join. Oh my gosh! So this is Big Rock on a sunset. Even if you're not a climber, it's kind of cool to watch the climbers doing their work. This area was historically used, and here's another shot with the giant rock sticking out in the distance. This area was used by the Spokane Mountaineers to train world-class mountaineers, so they're one of our biggest supporters. This is a trail system that was built mostly by Washington Trails Association and also the Spokane Mountaineers. Terrific. Oh, the winter shot.
Oh, winter shot.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So if it's a 2-mile loop, going out in the winter is pretty dang neat. Nothing better than to get some exercise on those short winter days. So it's beautiful. This is one of my favorite shots. This is a shot from the highest point looking back to the north. Look at that spectacular forested ridge with, in the distance, the Spokane Valley. So what a gem we have in the wild heart of Spokane.
Right. It is
another shot
spectacular.
Of Big Rock.
Yeah.
And this is an example of the 1.7 billion-year-old nice rock.
Mm-hmm.
The view over the Palouse.
Mm-hmm.
This is the rapeseed, the canola fields that are planted. This is probably in July. What a spectacular view.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. Jeff, I wish we need a whole nother program to talk more about this, because this is one of my favorite things to talk about, the beautiful area that we live in, and it's so accessible, and the work you're doing is spectacular, and thank you for doing that work.
Thank you for having me.
Future generations are going to thank you for doing that work. Again, the program is coming up with Jeff on Wednesday, May 8th, Spokane Valley Library, 7 to 8 p.m. That is at no charge as well, and you'll talk all about this, and people will be able to bend your ear. And then also the Run for the Hills on Saturday, June 1st. So I encourage you. The weather's finally getting nice again. Get out and check it out at the Dishman Hills. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Jane. It was fun.
It was fun. We'll have you back again and maybe see you out there on the trails.
Yep.
All right. For Library Out Loud, I'm Jane Baker. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Library Out Loud is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksMedia.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Library Out Loud is sponsored by our friends at the Spokane County Library District and STCU. Ask Jane a question, recommend a guest, or hear this program again on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SpokaneTalksMedia.com.